Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. European Union released a communique announcing intent to release some billions franc CFA for humanitarian funds to the quote Anglophones. This has caused mixed feelings among southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, some being happy and hopeful, some being critical in thinking about the feasibility of it due to the kind of banana republic La Republique du Cameroon runs. Embezzlement of money meant for the development of the people and the utter disregard to the plight of the grassroots, one of La Republique du Cameroon's trademark, unfortunately. And now this news that is supposed to bring pure joy to the peoples of Ambazonians has unfortunately not been the case. In Undaunted tonight, we'll find out if really this financial humanitarian aid has a chance of going to its right destination instead of the pockets of some greedy few. Meanwhile, out tonight that La Republique du Cameroon has stubbornly refused to go back to its international recognized boundaries, obtained at its independence in 1960, simply because it wants to exploit the Ambazonians. Bakassi oil-rich peninsula La Republique du Cameroon has been illegally feeding fat on for over the years. While disrespecting their geographical boundaries, to name a few, seems to be something La Republique du Cameroon is good at. Today, amongst other juicy reports, La Republique yet again crosses a boundary. We'll get the prime headlines now.
Well, these are the prime headlines for today. We'll start today's news with the controversy spark over 2 billion francs CFA humanitarian aid to Amazonia. Also today, General Fear No Soul of UNDAUNTED stunning warning to Paul Biya. Today's story has this report that says a cab driver pulled out of his house and shot dead by La Republique du Cameroon terrorist military. Also today in Kambay in dismay as unidentified men robbed Muslim cemetery and emptied 4 graves. Wow, today as well, we will be giving you this report that says Nigeria is dragging the Cameroon to court again over oil and gas-rich Bakassi local government area that is in Amazonia. Christians of PCC Basser team up against pastor for taking one of them to court is another story that will interest you today. All right, let's get the news in detail.
The media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Amazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with Undaunted ABC Amba News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution on Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? In Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amba TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amba TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Ambazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Ambazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambatv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
On December 30th, 2022, the European Union released a communique announcing that it was going to release a little more than 2 billion francs CFA to fight against food insecurity across war-torn Ambazonia, including, to the organization estimates, nearly 600,000 people are in need of emergency food aid in Ambaland. Questioned by internet users about our 2 billion francs envelope that the European Union will release to fight against famine in Ambazonia amid a raging armed conflict, Ambassador Philippe Van Dame has defended himself from any bias, and this is where we will begin the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. I am Onyi of Balance Smart is here as always. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Onyi, and good evening, Ambazonians. Well, still under 2 billion francs CFA, over 2 billion francs CFA, France's envelope that the European Union has said it will release to fight against famine in Ambazonia. Philippe Van Dam has defended himself in a tweet from any possible bias. Well, as an alleged Ambazonian liberation fighter was concerned with this funding could be diverted by the colonial Republic of Cameroon's government to finance the war. The ambassador replied that it is completely absurd, saying to ensure neutrality or humanitarian aid has never been channeled through government channels.
Well, further on, Philippe Van Dam replied that our humanitarian aid is always in the form of donations through humanitarian agencies, the United Nations, the Red Cross, Red Crescent, NGOs. And in the case of this aid, it is the World Food Programme, the European Union in Cameroon, our local office for civil protection, and European humanitarian aid operations.
Well, Philippe Van Dam, who is he? Philippe Van Dam is from Brugge, in Belgium. In January 2010, he took office as ambassador head of delegations of the European Union in the Republic of Guinea-Conakry. 4 years later, 2014, he continued as ambassador head of delegations to the Republic of Zimbabwe.
Around in 2018, he returned to the headquarters of the European Union in Brussels to take up the post of political advisor at the African Directorate of the European External Action Service. Since April 21, 2021, Philippe Van Damme is officially an ambassador head of delegation accredited by the European Union to the Republic of Cameroon. He's married, the father of 5 children, and a grandfather as well.
Well, while some others might be happy about the news of over 2 billion francs CFA humanitarian funds to be released, there are others like the example we gave that are bothered if the funds will ever get to the hands it was released for. Because anyone who has studied the pattern of La République du Cameroon knows it is not the first time to embezzle money meant for the development of the people or the first time to disregard the plight of the grassroots. Here are some social media reactions. Mark Barata, who has portrayed himself severally as a confused activist, even one time threatening the life of the President Sako on live TV, was the one who actually brought more online eyes to the issue. He said, the European Union has offered Cameroon's government 5 billion francs CFA, he says 5, to fight famine in the so-called Anglophone regions. They are very much aware that this money will be embezzled, yet they do not care. What will these people not show us, he says?
Now, if you have noticed from our conversation when we started this particular report, you notice that the figure has not been quite ascertained. Well, Mark Barata says 5 billion francs CFA, and some other sources have said 2 billion francs CFA. That we will get to find out soon enough. Now, another user, this is what he said. He says, and I quote, so why was the idea even on the table in the first place? He says, we know that you guys know these funds will disappear. The distressed are only going to receive if our government officials release. There is a thing called shame, toilet paper, and he goes on to talk about other things.
Well, some others wanted to know how the money will be delivered to the people, as Philippe Van Damme said otherwise. Is this one sentence from Philippe Van Damme enough to clear the air about the possibility of an embezzlement of the humanitarian fund? Well, that we'll get to find out subsequently, but then we'll have our eyes on the ground to know what happens later.
All right, and moving on, Doctors Without Borders wins case against La République du Cameroon. We have been bringing you up to date with happenings as it relates to Doctors Without Borders. Now, I can remember vividly that in December 2022, we informed you that they were stopped from working. Then on Monday, 9th January 2023, we informed you that they were charged. Well, Undaunted gathered that the ruling was handed down on December 29, 2022, but had not been made public. Well, the NGO's lawyer, Edward Esono, today had something new on the table.
Now, the Boya Military Court has just acquitted the leaders of the NGO accused of complicity with the Ambazonian restoration fighters. In a press release dated 10th January 2023, the organization said all charges have been dropped and all 5 staff who were accused of complicity with the freedom fighters facing trial in the La République du Cameroon's military tribunals have been released. 4 of the staff in question had to endure incarceration for many months. A section of the release reads,
well, following the release of 5 of the NGO who had been arrested while transporting victims of gunshot wounds to Kumba local government area and Kumba Hospital, Stephen Grillox, DWB coordinator in Central Africa, he said, we are happy with the judgment which acquits the 5 leaders and further the organization Doctors Without Borders. Well, Doctors Without Borders, DWB, were then accused of being in cohort with the Ambazonian freedom fighters fighting for the recognition of Ambazonia. Well, the court has just delivered its verdict exonerating the NGO and its leaders. However, Doctors Without Borders regrets that its staff spent many months in jail, but also that Doctors Without Borders has categorically denied any complicity with the Ambazonian restoration fighters in these violent crises or conflicts. Our staff is guided by medical ethics, he says.
Now, these accusations were groundless from the first instance, especially as the authorities knew exactly how they were providing medical support. Accusing medical personnel for simply doing their job, threatening patients in front of them, is simply against all medical ethics. This is an underscore by Sylvian Gross, and he recalls, however, that his team still wishes to continue its operations in Cameroon and is ready for a discussion with the government. Quote, "We remain ready to continue the discussion with the powers that be to analyze the feasibility of restarting medical and humanitarian activities in Amazonia under such preconditions." The WB release added that on November 1st, 2022, the Boya Military Tribunal ruled no case to answer regarding the situation of a community worker who had spent 10 months in detention.
He says, finally, on the 29th of December 2022, all remaining Doctors Without Borders staff members who had been detained were acquitted, the last of whom was released the following day. A judgment of acquittal was also declared regarding Doctors Without Borders project coordinator who had been tried in absentia. Another section of the release states, according to Stephen Gross, MSF coordinator in Central Africa. He says they are ready to return to work in Amazonia if the Colonial La Republic the Cameroon government permits. Well, despite our attempt to open a channel of dialogue with the government to ensure our teams can continue vital activities in Amazonia, the Yaoundé government has been unresponsive. This has made it difficult to reach an agreement that ensures good working conditions, guarantees the safety of our teams and patients, he says.
Well, Undaunted notes here that in December 2020, the Colonial La Republic du Cameroon's government suspended the medical humanitarian organization in Amazonia for reasons that they were collaborating with Amazonia Restoration Forces. Many criticized the Colonial La Republic du Cameroon's government for taking such a decision, as they believe that the organization was of great help to the population hit by the socio-political crisis.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
The Ambazonian Liberation Forces are bent on pushing the Colonial La Republic du Cameroon terrorist military out of the territorial boundaries of southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. This fierce resistance has been yielding fruits in the different counties in Ambazonia. To many La Republic du Cameroon terrorist forces, the Republic of Ambazonia has been a land of no return to them, while others are nursing wounds sustained from the bullets of the Ambazonian Liberation Forces, and some are internally handicapped. With all these casualties, the chief of La Republic du Cameroon's colonial armed forces, Paul Biya, is still not willing to call for a ceasefire. Paul Biya is adamant about refraining military option to resolve the ongoing conflict in Ambazonia.
Despite their deployment of these La Republic du Cameroon forces to Ambazonia, the Ambazonian liberation fighters are very ready to wipe them off their promised land. It is in this line the Amba General Fear No Soul of Undo is sending a sounding warning to Paul Biya. It is easy for a man to be defeated in his backyard. Ambazonian liberation fighters are benefiting from all their home advantage in the conflict.
Now, the Ambazonian General of Undur has sent a message promising doom for Paul Biya in the days ahead. General Fianoso made the statement in a video in circulation. In the video, the Amba General is certain that nothing and no man will stop the frontline fighters from reaching Boya, the capital of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia.
General Fianoso cautions other Amba fighters to be vigilant at night as the Colonial La Republic du Cameroon military has strategized to attack Ambazonian fighters' camp at unholy hours at night. Well, that's no fighter should sleep at night, but awake to be ready for any move of the colonial La Republic to Cameroon terrorist forces. He says the talks should be conditions to attack only during the day when they will be well taken care of. To Paul Biya, the general makes it clear that before the wish of La Republic to Cameroon to kill all Ambazonians, the land must have been freed. He says that no Amba can ever surrender. He says for Biya to succeed, he must have spilled the last blood, an act that is an impossibility.
Given that La Republic du Cameroon has resorted to the use of explosives against the Ambazonian liberation fighters, General Fier-No-So assures Biya that in Undo, bombs have no impact as General Fier-No-So will be the first general in Amazonia to trap bombs in the air. Here is a complete message from General Fier-No-So to Paul Biya captioned in this video.
Avec, we never start out with prayer. But the way we don't commend we this time around, Papa God will go pray for you, but we'll not go church. That's what I want to tell you. Jesus, I know say they heaven. I beg, no vex for Christmas Day because church no day. All we go dinner for us because we are the plan say it go come for church key all man. That's why we start and for bands or go for come do. If bole suit bole for my family, it decrease. I want them be this time around say, I know so you define me, Papa. But if find way to find me this time around, now me go find you. This is what I tell you directly now. So I don't hear your news. Fine. Any Amba boy, for place where you dey, I beg. For daytime, I know so we'll get plenty radar. But for night, I beg, boy, no sleep. Papa the plan now for night. Papa the plan we now for night. And I want say for night we will day up. So that we won't come for daytime we go to see. For night, me no Amba boy no sleep. All we go day up with the wedding. Even for 200 years. Papa Mbia, I know say you go kill all we. Before you go one kill we don't take the land. I know say you go kill all man as you talk. All man will die. Even at Tana for you, I know say I go die. Now why I know the fear die? Now why did they call me say AKA fear no so? Because I go kill. Now me go fake kill you. Mbia, I dey promise you. Now you could die before we. And Amba, if you never kill to the last one, no man no can stop. Till you bury the last one, till the last one is buried. Amba, yeah? Oh, yeah. Amba, yeah? Oh, yeah. If we are not kill till the last one, Amba no can stop. Oha. 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 Papa Mbia, this message what the sea give you. I beg. I know so if you don't fool Papa them, but you no go fool we. We'll be na you. You know if you fool we. I hear you the fry to bomb. That a bomb. You go see am say for new land with the cash bomb. You go hear the first general for Amber land we go cash bomb for air. Now me. And if you no look up, Mrs. that my bomb can meet up you. If you are miss you, if I miss you this time around, Mbia, that means I don't lie. I never miss Junior. They are picking Junior. That mumu, where the piece for bed? I beg, take a waka. Because I used to get ball for your own, you go see ball will come on that side. Bye-bye.
All right, I'm moving on. Let's bring you this sad report that says a cab driver pulled out of his house and shot dead by La Republic du Cameroon terrorist military. Well, summary of the execution of Ambazonians by La Republic du Cameroon terrorist military is going on a regular basis. Little or no communication is reported about these killings, since they are being carried out in isolation and only the families of the concerned will be feeling the pains. Now, it is pure hypocrisy with La Republic before the cameras, preaching and singing, living together. And before the scene killing, the people of Ambazonia are seen being killed on a regular basis.
Well, the question is, who are they deceiving? Certainly not the peoples of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. The people of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia have just one option: stand up as one man for a united front against La Republic du Cameroon till the restoration of the statehood of former British Southern Cameroons. The La Republic du Cameroon terrorist forces have pulled a taxi driver from his house and rained bullets on him for no reason and with no justification after the act in Bambui. Is this not clear genocide on broad daylight?
Well, this report in full says a driver, Undaunted got his name as Montu Kalis, popularly known as Small Head. On the night of Monday, breaking Tuesday, January 10, 2022, was killed by soldiers at his Man 10 Bambui residence. Muchu Kalis was a driver on the Bambui Bello Road. According to his colleagues, Kalis was killed in his home in Bambui local government area at about 8:30 p.m. on Monday. They got his son well beaten and forced him to take them to his father. His father was called out, and when he stepped out, they rained bullets on him and he died on the spot. Now, this is how people are killed by the Colonial Tuba Brigade commander, and no one is saying anything. A witness who voted for anonymity added.
Now, it has been just a few days that the terrorist La République du Cameroon's military stormed the funeral ground. Still in Bambui, we brought the story to you. The shot at a masquerade that died on the instant set the place into a pandemonium with people running just as far as their legs could carry them. After scaring all the mourners away with deafening gunshots, and the colonial La République du Cameroon military undressed the masquerade, placed his dancing beads on him, and rained more shots.
Well, the fear in the heart of the inhabitants of Bambui and surrounding is who is not on the execution list of the colonial La République du Cameroon terrorist military. The mortar remains of Mochu Kalis was then transported by his colleagues to a nearby mortuary.
Moving on with our stories tonight, even though colonial La République du Cameroon administrative authorities lied to the world that normalcy has returned in Amazonia, gunshots engulfed once more the Bamenda local government area. The neighborhoods this morning of Thursday, January 12th, 2023. News just reached Undaunted says denizens of Bamenda local government area woke up this morning in fear as heavy gunshots engulfed the city. That loomed at mile 4, 5, 6, and other areas in Nkwen, Bamenda local government area.
Well, the report adds that activities were yet to gain steam following the heavy gunshots that were heard, and it was not clear if there was a confrontation between colonial La République du Cameroon soldiers and Amba restoration fighters. But many say the fear leaving their homes because they could be targeted. Well, as at press time, Undaunted could not lay hands on pictures as the incident was still and only unfolding.
With everything happening, the quest for fast cash has proven to be the reason behind some of the atrocities in the communities nowadays. And trafficking human parts is one of the easiest means for men of the world to make quick money, quick immoral money. There are some myths about the different things that can be produced from human bones. The ongoing war in the Republic of Amazonia is a contributing factor to many engaging in some unorthodox and immoral means to earn a living. With the conflict, La République du Cameroon terrorist forces have rendered many Amazonians not only homeless, but also poor and economically paralyzed.
The colonial La République du Cameroon terrorist military has burnt down houses, looted businesses of southern Cameroonians, and set ablaze on uncountable commercial motorbike sources of livelihood for many youths, rendering them jobless. Well, these have pushed some individuals to soil their hands to get what they need to eat at all costs. Well, bones from 4 graves have been exhumed in a Muslim cemetery in the Nkambe local government area by still to be identified individuals. Where is this market in human bones located, and who are those sponsoring it? Well, worthy of the curiosity, the people of Nkambe, headquarters of the Donga Mountain County of the Republic of Amazonia, got on Tuesday, January 10, 2023, were awed by what they saw. The shocking revelation was at a Muslim burial ground where unidentified men exhumed skeletons of 4 graves and disappeared into thin air. A native narrated the state of affairs that morning when it was discovered that 4 graves have been emptied. He says, "We are just from the cemetery and we are wondering." Some unidentified individuals visited the Muslim cemetery here in Nkambe, exhuming and making away with the skeleton of some Muslims who died some many years ago. While locals hinted that 4 graves were emptied, the people are very much perplexed because such has never been heard of in the entire Wimbom land. The perpetrators of the Tuesday, January 10, 2023 atrocious act at the Muslim cemetery in Nkambe local government area are still at large, and we can only hope that they are found and more of these kind of atrocity do not take place anymore.
Now, at the center of the grievances, Nigeria is dragging La Republic to Cameroon to court again over the oil and gas-rich Bakassi local government area, Ambazonia. And at the center of their grievances, they say it is La Republic du Cameroon's non-respect of terms in the Green Tree Agreement signed in 2006. They say that La Republic du Cameroon does not respect the agreement and cannot, they had to take them to court for this reason.
Well, La Republic du Cameroon, for those who did not know, has no boundary with Nigeria, but Ambazonia has. La Republic du Cameroon has stubbornly refused to go back to its internationally recognized boundaries obtained at its independence in 1960, simply because it wants to exploit the Ambazonian Bakassi oil-rich peninsula. La Republic du Cameroon has been illegally feeding fat on for over the years. Well, La Republic du Cameroon knows that respecting the Green Tree Accord will mean losing Bakassi. No greedy person, like colonial La Republic du Cameroon, leaves food easily, and like a stubborn greedy La Republic du Cameroon will, go with the flies.
Well, what are the details of this famous agreement signed on June 15 and 6 in Green Tree, New York? Well, let's take a look. The Green Tree Agreement between La Republic du Cameroon and Nigeria, as concerns the Bakassi Peninsula, Article 1 says Nigeria recognizes the sovereignty of Cameroon over the Bakassi Peninsula in accordance with the judgment of the International Court of Justice of 10 October 2002 in the matter of land and maritime boundary between Cameroon and Nigeria. Cameroon and Nigeria recognize the land and maritime boundaries between the two countries as delineated by the court and commit themselves to continuing the process of implementation already begun.
Well, Article 2. Nigeria agrees to withdraw all its armed forces from the Bakassi Peninsula within 60 days of the date of the signing of this agreement. Now, if exceptional circumstances so require, the Secretary General of the United Nations may extend the period as necessary for a further period not exceeding a total of 30 days. Now, this withdrawal shall be conducted in accordance with the modalities envisaged in Annex 1 to this agreement.
Now, on the third article, it says, 1. Cameroon, after the transfer of authority to it by Nigeria, guarantees to Nigerian nationals living in the Bakassi Peninsula the exercise of fundamental rights and freedoms enshrined in international human rights laws and in other relevant provisions of international law. 2. In particular, shall not force Nigerian nationals living in the Bakassi Peninsula to leave the zone or to change their nationality, respect their culture, language, and beliefs, respect their rights to continue their agricultural and fishing activities, protect their property and their customary land rights, not levy in any discriminatory manner any taxes and other dues on Nigerian nationals living in the zone, and take every necessary measures to protect Nigerian nationals living in the zone from any harassment or harm.
All right, let's look at Article 4. It says Annex I and the map contained in Annex 2 to this agreement shall constitute an integral part thereof. No part of this agreement shall be interpreted as a reunification by Cameroon of its sovereignty over any part of its territory.
Now, Article 5 says this agreement shall be implemented in good faith by the parties with the good offices of the Secretary General of the United Nations, if necessary, and shall be witnessed by the United Nations, the Federal Republic of Germany, the French Republic, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America.
While Article 6 says a follow-up committee to monitor the implementation of this agreement is thereby established, it shall be composed of representatives of Cameroon, Niger, the United Nations, and the witness states. The committees shall monitor the implementation of the agreement by the parties with the existence of the United Nations observers of the Mixed Commission. The follow-up committee shall settle any disputes regarding the interpretation and implementation of these agreements. The activities of the follow-up committee shall cease at the end of the period of the special transitional regime provided for in paragraph 4 of Annex 1 to this agreement.
Now, the seventh article says this agreement shall in no way be construed as an interpretation or modification judgment of the International Court of Justice of 10th October 2002, for which the agreement only sets out the modalities of implementation.
And Article 8 says this agreement is concluded in English and French, both texts being equally authentic. Done at Green Tree, New York on the 12th day of June 2006 for the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, President, for the Republic of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, President, Olusegun Obasanjo, Witness, for the United Nations, Kofi Annan, for the Federal Republic of Germany, H.E. Gunther Plague, for the United States of America, H.E. Fakai Sanders, for the French Republic, H.E. Michael Duclos, for the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, H.E. Karen Pierce. With this, you see the entirety of the agreement on Bakassi La Republic de Cameroon's non-respect of terms. Same way they disrespected the facts and legality surrounding the historicity of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia.
That's not all. We have some available facts. So far, we're referring to reports and statements made by individuals and politicians. The Cameroonian government that has not made any official statements alluding to the insinuation. So politically, it would be right to say that those who are making those statements could probably be doing so with lofty desires, not legality. Because if you look at this report, it brings a memory or resurfaces the legal processes that took place.
Well, that is the agreement and what was arrived at. It was not done in the quarter, it was done officially. So if the two parties involved are ignoring the agreements that brought back the peace that they are ignoring, it also means they are ignoring international injunctions. And it is very delicate because the Gulf of Guinea relies on a lot on their political good faith to maintain some semblance of peace. Now, the question is, where is Ambazonia coming in this story? Where is Ambazonia's place in this particular issue? Well, to answer this question this evening, we have Barrister Theman Basier, who is an authority in issues like this, to answer us. Where is Ambazonia's place?
Good evening, Barrister Team.
Good evening, viewers. Good evening, coordinators. Thank you for having me here.
All right, could you be a little more audible so that we can hear you clearly? Your audio is not so clear.
I said good evening to all of you. Good evening to all viewers, listeners, and anybody who is interested. Thank you for having me here. I will, as usual, provide the best that I can read out of it. And I hope we'll get educated by that.
And we are delighted to have you as well. All right, you've heard the bubble in Bakassi from some media sources. What do you think are the intricacies involved?
For the purpose of this discussion, I think you have already outlined it. We have to be reminded that there was a case that fitted Cameroon and in Nigeria over specifically the Bakassi area. Nigeria claimed Bakassi was theirs. Cameroon claimed it was theirs. And so they were actually fighting a war over Bakassi. And so Cameroon went to The Hague, the International Court of Justice at The Hague, to complain, to sue Nigeria over Bakassi. And for the purpose of this discussion, you have already said it, on the 10th of October 2002, the International Court of Justice issued a judgment concerning Bakassi. But we should be reminded that the issue of Bakassi took them to court, but the court there with more than Bakassi, because Nigeria raised other issues over there. In common, there was this dispute over the boundaries of Cameroon. And in Nigeria, you remember, we had something we call North Cameroon. That became part of Nigeria. North Cameroon extended right to Lake Chad and came down to Amba, where they were cut from the south, and they became North Cameroon. North Cameroon voted in a plebiscite, the same plebiscite that we had in 1961, to become part of Nigeria. And so the boundary of Cameroon and Nigeria over in the north from Lake Chad was also in dispute, because Nigeria claimed that Cameroon was encroaching on parts of its territory, that is parts of the former northern Cameroon. And so the judgment went to that issue. The judgment dealt with now the whole boundary of Cameroon in court and Nigeria. And that boundary extends by those documents from Lake Chad, that is northern Cameroon, right down to the Atlantic Ocean, that's Bakassi area. And so the court judgment that came out in October 2002 dealt with the whole stretch of the border from Lake Chad to the Bakassi Peninsula, which is in the Atlantic Ocean. And what did the court say? The court ordered in its judgment that the whole boundary between Cameroon and Nigeria should be retraced from Lake Chad down to the Bakassi Peninsula. And so that was the order of the court. They had to retrace the boundaries. This was understandable because over the years and the decades, there has been this trespassing to one side by the other side. A good example is what obtained in what we call Amba today. What pillars standing there, most of a good number of those pillars have been destroyed by La République. But some of them are still standing there right now. And so the issue of border had to come into issue. And so what did they do? After that, they found it difficult to implement those things because nobody knew whether Nigeria would appeal or Cameroon would appeal. Before I get to that, let me remind us that when the case was pending in court, Ambazonia, that is British Southern Cameroon, sought to intervene. They said, look, that area they call Bakassi does not even belong to Cameroon. It doesn't belong to Nigeria. It belongs to us. So we tried to intervene at The Hague in that decision, in that court process. And we did not succeed, essentially because the International Court at The Hague deals with countries. We're not a country. And so we could not just get in. And that's why we were absent there. And so the judgment came out. But for us to be clear, when they talk of Bakassi, Cameroon's claim to Bakassi was based on their claim to unification. Because there's no way that Yaoundé would have had any boundary with Bakassi, crossing Douala, crossing Kumba, crossing and going to India to have a boundary. They didn't have any such thing, and they don't have it. So their claim to Bakassi lay on their claim that we would join them and become Cameroon. As of then, and even as of today, internationally, Ambazonia is still regarded as part of Cameroon. Does that affect us negatively? No. At any time that we successfully reinstate our institutions and our statehood, the issue of Bakassi claimed by Cameroon will be moot. It has no meaning because they cannot own it. But fast forward to what you asked. In 2006, which have revised there, they came out to find out the implementation of the decision of the Court of Justice, the International High Court of Justice. How were they going to implement this? How were they going to do all what the court said should be done? And so the Green Tree Agreement came from there. They met in New York at the Green Tree House, Water Street, where it was there, to iron out how they could implement the decision of the court from The Hague. And among those other agreements that they put there, they put what they call a joint commission comprising Nigerian experts, comprising Cameroonian experts, and the United Nations experts and other countries to see how the thing could be implemented. What were they going to implement? We are going to implement the retracing of the borders between Cameroon, so-called Cameroon, and Nigeria. Two, how are they going to implement Nigeria's claim to Bakassi lay on the fact that the people who live in Bakassi are in the majority Nigerians? But because they look, the land belongs to Cameroon. Nigerians can live there. Just like Chinese can live there. They are in the majority. So what is Cameroon going to do? That was the basis for the Green Tree. That's what the Green Tree states, I think paragraph 6. That nothing in this agreement, called the Green Tree, is intended to interpret the judgment differently. It's just intended to facilitate its implementation. And so that is how the Green Tree came about. They set up this joint commission. You remember that in the 1915, 1916, where they were dividing the country, putting a pillar left or right. You and me, we Africa, we didn't know where it was. But when they came to the point and said 30 degrees, 90 degrees east of this river, or 150 degrees south of this line, the white man understood those things because they were basing their definitions on the GPS. The GPS technology has been there forever. You and me did not know. From the time that the planes were flying, they had invented the GPS. Otherwise, how do you fly from London to Japan? Landing without any problem. So they had this technology. And so they incorporated the United Nations to come in where there's a dispute. They will look at the agreement of 1916, after the First World War. If it's with northern Nigeria, where were these pillars standing? They were to identify where the pillar was. And so that's what they have been doing. They have been doing this since 2000, since the Green Tree. I think I have some pictures here. They have finished the job of retracing the boundary between Cameroon and Nigeria from the north. I saw pictures of celebrations. People taking pictures with the pillars newly put there. Then they came down to Bakassi, which is what concerns us now. In fact, from time to time, they meet to review the job they have done so far. The whole commissions, either in Lagos, in Abuja, or somewhere else, where these joint committees will review what they have done to this point. As of August 2022, they had held 23 of such commissions since 2006. So they held one in Abuja in August, and that was the 24th commission to review the planting of the pillars, in fact, the retracing of the borders. And that is what has brought us to this point. That commission, together with the United Nations representative, there's a representative there with the chair of the Secretary General of the United Nations and other experts. And so when they reviewed what they had done so far, they discovered that they had come to a point where they could not agree, because by the Green Tree Agreement, they said we'll always agree, we do have the consensus. So they came to a village called Romati.
But
This is
Barrister Tim, a
Bakassi.
little bit of interjection there. Barrister Tim, if I'm correct, the international boundaries are with the United Nations. Is that correct?
The international boundaries were laid not by the United Nations. They were laid by the League of
Not there
Nations
with
after
them.
the First World War. And those boundaries were transferred to the United Nations in 1945, when it became a trust territory. They didn't change the status or the physical geography of each of the states. I'm dealing with Southern Cameroon or British Administered
Okay.
Cameroon. The boundaries were defined actually in 1922, and they remain what it is today based on the
Okay.
1922 demarcation
If so,
between
so why
Southern
do we
Cameroon.
get to this point of the rightful owner of the land is known? I mean, if the rightful owner of the land is known, since the international boundaries are with the United States, how do we get to this point, of the court case and all?
This is where we got to this point. According to history, we are the rightful owners of the land. That is Ambazonia on one side,
But like you said,
and the
Amazonia
northern
is
Cameroon,
under Cameroon.
and northern
Okay.
Cameroon on the other
You
side.
know,
But in international law, as we know it happened in 1961, our international status was submerged to the national status of Cameroon. The North Cameroon international status was submerged to the national status of Nigeria. And so that's why, up to this point, the international court, in fact, the international court will call it Cameroon, because the parties before the court were Cameroon and Nigeria. And I've explained how and why Cameroon was the plaintiff. They laid their claim to Bakassi based on the 1961 plebiscite that would purportedly join them. And the arguments went to the plebiscite. One of the basic arguments was that in Bakassi there was a polling station in Bakassi for the plebiscite. That was Southern Cameroon. So I wonder if this answers your question.
very well, very well. Thank you so much, Barrister Team. Thank you so much. Well, this discussion definitely be enhanced again on Saturday, because we do hope to have not just you, Barrister Team, but also Barrister Fru, Pa Augustine Danga, and Barrister Ghana to verify the true owner of this land and delve more into this particular issue, because it's indeed a very huge one. Thank you so much, Barrister Team. We really do appreciate your time with us here tonight. Thank you.
But before I leave, let me make this. This is where the problem is. We have seen this on social media that Nigeria and Cameroon are going back to the court. Yes, they agreed to go back to the court. What are they going to the court for? Because they could not agree on these three villages. I was trying to explain. Those are in the oil-rich areas. So these villages have a lot of significance. They were unable to agree where to put the boundaries. And said, well, we cannot agree. Let us go back to the Hague for clarification. Let the court clarify in this particular aspect of these three villages. That's why they are going back, they agreed to go back to the Hague for clarifications of all those just three places. And again, to finish this point, let us understand this. By the Green Tree Agreement, they agreed to cooperate. It appears that Cameroon and Nigeria have agreed in principle to have joint exploration of hydrocarbon products in parts of Bakassi. It will be a joint venture, supposed to be a joint venture. But as of August last year, they are not agreed to the final print. That aspect of joint exploitation as of August is still ongoing. So we should not be surprised tomorrow, next year, if this war is not over, to see a joint venture of Nigeria and Cameroon in Bakassi exploiting gas. That's where I land for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barrister Tim. Like we said on Saturday, definitely we'll delve into it more deeper. Thank you so much tonight for creating out time to be here
Okay,
with us on Undaunted.
I
Have a
got to
great
go.
night, Barrister Tim.
I got to go, but I wanted to address something. Introduction. You talked about food and the
All right,
case
then moving on with the rest of the. Is Barrister Tim still there?
that. Are you getting
All
me?
right, definitely would have him tell us more.
Yeah, I was
Okay,
saying
he's
that
still
in your
here.
introduction, you talked about food aid and Medicine Sans Frontier. You talked about the case in Boya and the money allocated by whoever to buy food because of purported famine in Amazonia. I just want to clarify that. There is no way, give them a billion, give them 1 billion, give them all 1 million, give them any amount of money. That money is not going to help the famine in Anglophone Cameroon or in Amazonia. No matter what good policies they have there, no matter how they define it, it's not going to help us. Why? Because for them to go and distribute the food, if I thought they even wanted to distribute food, they will need security to go around and distribute the food. This security will be provided by Yaoundé. Suppose they went to Bamenda and Atangaji said, well, hunger is only in Nkwen. And to the people had to give 50 bags of rice. How does that benefit somebody who is in Kambe, who is in Fruawa, dying? But even then, our people in Bamenda, our people in Kambe, our people in Mamfe are not dying of starvation. What we have as hunger are the internally displaced in Douala, Bafoussam, and Yaoundé. Would they go there to Yaoundé, to Douala, and gather our people, say Anglophones come and take food? No. It can be sure they will give it to their brothers and sisters. So there's no way that thing is going to help us. Second point, Medecins Sans Frontier. There are medical doctors who are supposed to give assistance to victims wounded in war. But Cameroon does not believe in wounded in wars. That is why it is documented. They break into hospitals, take the wounded and kill. They come into the health centers, take the wounded and kill. So on what basis would they allow Medecins Sans Frontier, whom they will be providing them security to go around? If Medecins Sans Frontier pick you up and say, well, this is a wounded guy, the people will kill you. Because they have shown that they cannot work with any honest, non-profit organization. The Aya Foundation is a good example. They have actually banned Aya. What was Aya doing? Aya was going around giving food to the refugees, helping the internally displaced. They have banned Aya. So there's nothing, what the Medecins Sans Frontier will be struggling to do, they're packed out already. The ones they were holding in Boya, in prison, are only the local people they recruited. Your brothers and mine who are assisting them, not the white men, who will go back to that thing. So Yaoundé does not have anything like helping people in terms of war. They don't believe in helping you. They must eliminate you. They must kill you if you have ever challenged them. That is the basis on which you went to Akum, broke into the hospital there, Kale Hospital. That's the Kale Hospital. Picked out the wounded, killed the people. So it has never happened like that in the world, but it's happening in Cameroon. So that's the point I wanted to clarify. Thank you very much.
All right, thank
All
you,
right.
Tim.
Thank you so much for that clarification. I'm sure that by Saturday you would. Well, welcome back. Thank you so much for that clarification. I'm sure that by Saturday, Dr. T. Mbesi and the rest would have to delve into this. That particular discussion will be enhanced on exclusive discussion with Mr. Tapadi King, and that will be after the fans briefing. So, as you can see, there's a lot to look out to for the weekend, so do not miss it. Meanwhile, we'll continue with the news tonight. Christians of PCC Bassa team up against pastor for taking one of them to court. Well, the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, PCC, has of late been experiencing issues in most of its branches. Now, these scuffles are always as a result of the congregants disagreeing with their pastor on one issue or the other? Is it that Christians do not master or do not understand the doctrine of the church, or is it that the pastors are not applying them effectively? What could have prompted Pastor Ndip Philip Ngongo to drag his own a fellow Christian, to court?
A lot has been wondering. Well, the crisis that the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon PCC is experiencing in Douala is fast degenerating to the point where the services of the courts are needed. A branch pastor of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon PCC of Bassa in Douala, the economic capital of La Republique du Cameroon, has dragged some members of his church to court.
Well, the action caused PCC Christians to storm the illegal Ndokoti High Court to protest against the pastor that Undaunted got the name as Pastor Ndip Philip Ngongo and his decision. Now, in front of the courtyard, the Christians kept booing Pastor Ndip Philip Ngongo and his lawyer, addressing him as an embezzler. They went on to say, "You are not a pastor, you are a thief, you must go." These are some of the sentences that the angry Christians were chanting.
Well, at press time, the exact reason for the pastor dragging his Christians to court have not been established, but despite the reason, many hold that the pastor should have gone spiritual and not legal. I mean, pray that whatever is making your congregation act this way would let them go and they'll change. Be spiritual about it as a pastor. Well, this is a court reaction from a sympathizer that says, what is then the place of spirituality that the is called to defend? This is a clear indication
All right. Well, unfortunately, the office of the moderator has not yet made any statement on the act of Pastor Ndip Philip Ngongo that is putting the PCC in Douala asunder. All right. And well, right after the break, we will be bringing you the editorial. Do stay with us.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
This is a disorder wey don come up on Dokoti now, so because of pastor wey carry Christian dey come for church. Una see Dokoti for front court. Na pastor die inside motor. Pastor wey carry the Christian dey come for church, come for court. But see wetin, we no know. He own about chop money. He no get nothing wey he do. Church no dey una see am. Pastor wey carry Christian dey bring am for church for court. Na see. This other way don't come out from the Dokoti now, so but see one pastor for PC Bassa, Reverend Ndip Philip Ngongo, he carry Christian and Weti, bring him for court. Now which kind pastor? Even for 5 piece, you know there. Now let's see one man so when he come for he on about chop money, work for church, he ready do. He cost Christian anyhow. Carry Christian bring him for court. Now this year, hey, Ndip Philip Ngongo. Ndip Philip Ngongo. Now in that so, when I see him, now in that place, moto. I look and find. Ndip Philip Ngongo. You must go. You must go. You must go. You must go. You are not a pastor. 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 You are not a preacher. What did you go? Then people get mine, he get by. So they eat to the videotape. Eat the videotape. Videotape for 20. For God, make it case fire, make it hot. Let's see, now that you go. When I see, now that you go. And then come on, that you go. That you go. And then come on, that.
As advertised yesterday, this chapter from Wilfred Tassang's forthcoming book centers on La Republic's divide and rule strategy. It is possibly the single most effective political technique in the whole of human history. With examples, Mr. Tassang Wilfred explains how this strategy works and how La Republic has used it to fight her opponents, especially Ambazonians over the years, and the SDF is a glaring example. A pillar of the regime approaches you and fans your ego by praising you to the sky. Of course, it's very good political strategy because it doesn't let the forces which are against you concentrate the power of force at a single point. Hence, the power of force against you cannot be utilized to the best of its potential, and this is how you can subdue your enemies or resistance or rivals, because you create two or more blocks which then engage in infighting, hence weakening themselves up and ending up losing their power gradually to such an extent that they are never able to achieve their targets set in the first place against you. If you are a proud or ambitious person, you would fall into the trap. You are used and dumped. The strategy failed in his case, perhaps because of humility. They tried to flatter him by listing achievements which he could not relate to, trying to pump his ego. Boomeranged. They made a promise which he angrily rejected. We have witnessed some prominent activists lose focus and start working against the Amazonian quest for freedom. You can name them: the Balas, Fontems, Milan, Nkongos, Sissoko, etc. Tassang Wilfred successfully portrays Yaoundé as a symbol of stinking corruption, manipulation, and moral decadence. Sadly, some Ambazonians, including some that are in this liberation fight, are infected with this virus. They refuse to give accountability of any money that passes through their hands. Remember Tabeyang? More importantly, he proposes a way forward. Reject anything that comes out of Yaoundé and avoid them like the plague. In our editorial on Monday, we'll bring to you The Way Forward is Not Backwards, Holy Water Day, a continuation of this amazing piece we started today. But for now, we've come to the end of our editorial for today. If you want more of such articles, kindly visit our website at www.abcambertv.com for more. Subscribe, become a club member and a part of this winning strategy. Find out payment details on your screen. I am Star Smart reporting for Undaunted ABC Amber TV.
All right, and in sports, with less than 24 hours to kick off of the highly anticipated Total Energies African Nations Championship CHAN Algeria 2022, CAF, in partnership with the local organizing committee LOC, gave a detailed update of the tournament state of readiness ahead of Friday's start. Now, let's get that update from Gab Ellison.
Latest world sports football. CAF and LOC give Total Energies CHAN state of readiness the thumbs up. With less than 24 hours to the kickoff of the highly anticipated Total Energies African Nations Championship CHAN Algeria 2023, CAF, in partnership with the local organizing committee LOC, gave a detailed update of the tournament's state of readiness ahead of Friday's start. Jointly speaking from the newly inaugurated Nelson Mandela Stadium in Algiers, CAF General Secretary Veron Mosengo Amba, alongside the LOC Chairman Rachidi Ukali, confidently stated that all requirements of hosting a major CAF competition have been met. As Algeria prepares to welcome Africa to its shores, the joint update by CAF and LOC touched on various aspects of hosting an international competition, such as the quality of infrastructure, transportation, study accommodation, training venues, and other key matters pertaining to the hosting of a CAF tournament. With the continued guidance of CAF, we have worked hard and well in ensuring that the tournament meets the high standards that have been set by CAF in hosting a world-class competition, said Ukali. We recently concluded our visit with the CAF Secretary General to all four cities, and we are glad to report that he was quite impressed with the state of readiness, insisting that it affords Algeria an opportunity to possibly host more CAF competitions in future. addition to the state of readiness, the LOC chairman also heaped praise on the people of Algeria who have shown great enthusiasm in supporting the tournament. While all the requirements have been met, we are also proud to confirm that tickets for the opening match on Friday have all been officially sold out, which is a clear sign that fans at home are excited about the competition. We certainly hope that we will have equally good crowds in all the other fixtures, he concluded. Sharing the sentiments of the LOC chairman, the CAF General Secretary said he was impressed over how the LOC has met and in certain areas exceeded expectations in their preparations of hosting such a tournament. We have been working quite closely with the LOC and are proud to confirm that they have done amazingly well in preparing and meeting the high standards that have been set by CAF. We must also thank the governors of Algeria for their support. Everything that they promised to CAF has been fulfilled. They are doing a great job and must be applauded, said Mozengo Amba. Asked about the importance of a unique tournament such as the CHAN, the CAF General Secretary emphasized the need for such a competition, stating that it celebrates African talent and has a role to play in the ever-growing competitiveness of African football. The Total Energies CHAN is an important event for African football as it provides an opportunity for local players who play in their respective countries' domestic leagues to showcase their skills on the international stage. The CAF General Secretary went on further to debunk the notion of this year's Total Energies CHAN edition being the last. We can reassure you that this is not the last edition of CHAN. The executive committee is meeting tomorrow, and part of the agenda has the organizing committee of CHAN mapping a way forward and the next steps in growing the competition. The tournament, which was first held in 2009 in Cote d'Ivoire, is held every 2 years, and this year's event will start from 13 January to 4 February. Tennis. Australian Open draw. Jack Draper to play Rafael Nadal. And Murray faces Matteo Berrettini. Rising British star Jack Draper would play top seed Rafael Nadal in the Australian Open first round, with Andy Murray also handed a difficult draw. Murray faces 13th seed Matteo Berrettini, while Novak Djokovic makes his Melbourne return against Spain's Roberto Carballes. Emma Raducanu, who has been struggling with an ankle injury, has been drawn against Germany's Tamara Kopatic. Raducanu, 20, could face 7th seed Coco Gauff in the second round. The Australian Open, which is the first Grand Slam tournament of the new season, takes place at Melbourne Park between 16 and 29 January. Draper, 21, emerged as one of the rising stars on the ATP Tour last year, and the left-hander has continued his rapid progress this season by reaching the Adelaide semi-finals, but his debut in the main draw of Melbourne Park could not have been much tougher. Nadal, 36, is the defending champion, and although he has struggled with injuries and lost his 2 matches so far this year, remains a daunting prospect for most opponents. However, the 22-time major champion would also probably not wish to start against a young talent who possesses the power and confidence of 40th ranked Draper. Former and world number 1 Murray will also be cursing his mission. The 35-year-old Scot impressed early on Thursday by beating Australian Alex de Minaur in an exhibition match at the Kooyong Classic, saying afterwards he hoped for a kind draw at Melbourne Park. Instead, he was pitched against Italy's Berrettini, whose big serving troubles most opponents and who reached the semi-finals last year. 9-time champion Djokovic missed last year's event after being deported from Australia in a row after his vaccination status, and returns to the back of winning the Adelaide title last week. The 35-year-old Serb, who is also bidding for a 22nd major title, which would equal Nadal's men's record, has only lost one of his past 25 matches. Seeded 4th, Djokovic would not face Nadal until a final, but could face home favorite Nick Kyrgios in the quarterfinals. In the women's draw, world number 1 Iga Swiatek, who reached the semi-finals last year, starts against Germany's recent Wimbledon quarterfinals Jules Niemeyer. Other eye-catching draw sees Belarusian Victoria Azarenka and American Sofia Kenin, both former champions, meet in the first round. Gab Ellison reporting from Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
And with our sports report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, a recap of our major stories.
The EU controversy spark over 2 billion franc CFA, over 2 billion franc CFA of humanitarian aid to Amazonia. General Fiona Soul of Undu sent stoning warnings to Paul Biya. A cab driver pulled out of his house and shot dead by La Republic du Cameroon terrorist military. And also in Cambay, in dismay as unidentified men, Muslim cemetery emptying 4 graves.
All right, tonight on Undaunted, we told you that Nigeria is dragging La Republic du Cameroon to court over oil and gas-rich Bakassi local government area owned by Amazonia. Also today, we told you that Christians of PCC Bassa team up against Pastor for taking one of them to court. And in sports, we told you that CAF and LOC gives Total Energy Chan state of readiness, the thumbs up. All right, and that was it for tonight on Undaunted, bringing to the news on top stories. On behalf of Michael Anchor, Smart, and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in. I am Uni Obala.
We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.